Mm-hmm.
Bill, Ted Keaton, the sports business journalist, sort of following up on that. College football coaches have traditionally been thought of as a CEO, sort of having a CEO role, overseeing all aspects of the program, not just players and coaching, whatever. I know you have Mike here, who's been a longtime guy for several decades. Have you been interested, comfortable in having that role as sort of the overseer of all aspects on and off the field of the program as Carolina sort of transforms, whether it's venues or protocol or how they do things? Do you want to have a role in those sort of off-field business aspects, or have you left that stuff to Mike? If you are involved in, what are sort of the things that you're focused on even throughout the offseason?
It's pretty much the same for me as it's always been, whether it was Mike and I in Cleveland or Scott Pioli or Nick Caserio or whoever the other person was, that we worked jointly together. I did the majority of the coaching, but there was certainly feedback from, Mike or Nick or people like that of, here's what I'm seeing. Are we using this player properly? Do we want to do this with this? They have a little different view of it than sometimes as a coach. You're in it and, you miss things. And so those guys gave me a good perspective sometimes on coaching, how to utilize players, maybe where they saw competition a little bit differently than where I or the coaching staff saw it. And at the same time, I would talk with Mike and our contract negotiators in the NFL, but now it's really just through Mike about how we want to structure our deals and payments and so forth on a big picture, and then he does it. So there's definitely a good line of communication, and I'd say we jointly make big decisions together. And then I kind of handle the coaching part of it, and Mike kind of handles the personnel, the contracts, and other things that go with that. In this case, academics and so some transfer rules and things like that apply specifically to recruiting and roster size and payments and so forth. Whereas I focus more on the coaching part of it. But again, it's intertwined, and he's been very helpful to me in my career, especially when he came to New England, like after we had 10 years of championships and Super Bowl appearances and everything. When he got there for 14 and 16, like that was, really kind of propelled us into Super Bowl championships instead of just, AFC East titles and AFC, that type of thing. Like there was some finding a few players and also kind of helping me build the roster so that we could, win and be more competitive in those final games. Like he had a lot to do with that. So it's very much of a partnership, but at the same time, we both kind of have the areas that we focus more in.
We've got time for two more on the left and then we'll go back here. Go ahead.
Adam Smith, Inside Carolina.
Yeah.
To follow up on what you were talking about, the acclimation period, specifically with the D-line, is that position, because you're not tackling every day, that it's not a true game-like condition with every drill you're doing? Like, is that the position that's the most difficult to get a read on at this stage of camp?
That O-line, yeah. O-line, D-line, yeah. Because, again, that's their game. It's contact, it's leverage, it's, footwork, position. And, I mean, these guys line up this far away from each other, and it all happens pretty quickly. And without pads and without, full contact, it's kind of hard to see exactly how that's going to go until you get to that point. Again, with receivers, defensive backs, things like that, you don't have that kind of, those kind of collisions. That the power is not as power can neutralize speed can offset power. There is certainly there's a better evaluation of that than there is with the big guys. And again, so much of interior offensive and defensive line play is based on pad level and leverage. And until you actually are going, it's kind of hard to tell exactly how it's going to turn out. Once everything is on, then it's a lot easier to see. So the defensive line and the offensive line those are hard positions to train in the off season. You train strength, you train explosion, you learn the plays, you get in condition and all that, but you can't actually do what you have to do against your opponent, in this case ourselves, until you get past the acclimation period in training camp, or for the 13 practices in spring ball. You can hit bags and you can hit sleds and you can do all those kind of things. It's good teaching and it prepares you for it, but it's not the same thing. So once we get to that point, then that'll help us. And I'm sure as we go through the course of the year that, we'll continue to improve in those areas. It doesn't just stop at the end of training camp. It'll continue, literally, hopefully, every week throughout the season, that we can refine our techniques, our fundamentals, our reaction, our recognition. Again, when you line up this far away from somebody, how quickly you can react to it is the difference between, having an advantage or not having an advantage and being in a recovery position. So that initial first step, first strike, again, pad level on the contact, all those kind of things, footwork, it's a fine line between having the advantage and being in a position where you're trying to recover. And that's what we want to try to do is gain the advantage and maintain it.
Last one, back middle.
Kate Rogers, BBC 11 coach. You mentioned there's a lot in the face, 70 new players. As you're in the acclimation period, it's almost what you can do football-wise, but have anyone really emerged or surprised you, personality, vocal leaders on the other side of the ball?
Yeah, I'd say it's a process, but yes, absolutely. Certainly some of the players who have more experience have more confidence, whether it be from their time here at Carolina or in some cases with other programs, but have played a lot of college football. And so they're confident in what they can do and what things are going to be like. Sure, there's some newness to it, but compared to a freshman who's coming in here who's never played in a college game, has only been now in a couple of college practices, has never gone up against this type of competition, compared to in high school when they were probably they were probably better than everybody else. Well, that's not necessarily the case now. In most cases, I would say it definitely isn't the case. So you go from being the best guy to now not the best guy anymore. So, the emergence usually comes from the more experienced players and the players, who have the most confidence. But a lot of these guys are gaining confidence as they start to have success on the field, and so it's a little bit of a fluid situation. We'll see how it all comes out. There are certain positions, the defensive signal callers, quarterbacks, centers, guys in the middle of the field, safeties, that control the communication on the other, to the extremities. And so a lot of times they emerge as leaders because they have to communicate to get the message to people outside of the formation. So there's a natural leadership that comes with some of those positions. Some guys are, have different skills in that area. And there's also, leadership. There's on-field leadership, and I'd say there's off-field leadership. Some players are particularly good leaders on the field in terms of, being aggressive and decisive, and on a football context, some players are good leaders off the field in terms of preparation, training, and things like that, and some are good at both. So it's also a little bit of a, what are you talking about? Are you talking about leader in the weight room, leader on the field, leader in the classroom, film study, leader in, kind of personal life, whether that be, Bible study or things like that. I mean, so there's different forms of leadership, and they're all starting to, unfold. And we've only been doing it here a few days here, so we'll see how it all comes together. But yeah, we have a lot of players who are very capable in those areas, and I think in a way we're all kind of trying to find out exactly how I'm gonna fit and how you're gonna fit and how it's all gonna work together. It's come together in a positive way, but I'd say hasn't been defined yet. It's a good question. It's a great question. It's interesting.